Hey, thanks for joining us. We got our third episode where Ford and I get into the details of the upcoming guys. We talk about Jayson Tatum, um, Zion Williamson, John Morant, Trae Young, and Luka Doncic. We also have a little special treat for you that we recorded a few days ago or last week, I believe, that I was unfortunately late to get into it, so I'm trying to put it out before the fight. But we have a good buddy of ours come in who's got a fighting background, and he kind of breaks down UFC 249. So we hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for listening. All right, welcome. Good morning. It's welcome to the Bucket Crew. We got a pretty fun show for you. We're gonna take some of the young guns. We kind of preluded to it last episode, but we're gonna rank some of the young guns that had a up and coming season this last year.
We're talking about guys that are a year or two in the league.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, or three.
Yeah,
we got 1-3, but and rank them how we would if we were to start a franchise today. Who would we pick and why? So, Ford, you want to lead us off, man? Just get right into it.
Yeah, we picked I think there was an ESPN graphic that started our conversation on this, and it was of the four guys like Luka, Trae, Ja, and Zion. Like, who would you start a franchise with? And then we were talking about it, we threw Jayson Tatum in there because he's a badass. So
yeah.
I mean, I think our first answer would probably be about the same. I mean, when you have a guy that's 6'7" and can do pretty much everything in the world, he's like a walking triple double. If I've got a redraft out of these five guys, I'm going Luka. Easy.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I mean I think the only some people might say Jayson Tatum ahead of him, but when you really compare them, Tatum's so cold, and I don't think you're robbed if you have to start a franchise with him by any means. But yeah, I'm giving the nod to Luka on that.
Yeah, I think I kind of feel Tatum's almost more of like a pure scorer, especially what we saw the last the last half of this past season.
Yeah.
But even though Luka averages like 5 more points a game or something, he's a little bit more of the focal point of the offense.
Yeah.
But Luka's playmaking ability is pretty stupid.
He's really the most comparable is LeBron. And he's not near as athletic. He's not the freak, but he facilitates. He does so much on the basketball court, and You're absolutely right. I think Luka's averaging a little more, but even on the boards, assists. But it's not even that. It's like you said, he's a playmaker.
Yeah, he's a total playmaker.
And it translates to victories. I think that's important too.
Yes, right. Clearly, getting Porzingis back, but even they overachieved in his rookie year. It was kind of just him.
Yeah.
He's easily the best guy here.
Yep. So I think we kind of already preluded to it, but for the guy right behind him, I put Tatum. I mean, what he did in the second half of the season, even what he did in his rookie year in the playoffs, he kind of showed that he has that killer instinct. He can get you a bucket when you need it. So it was a pretty easy pick on that one, just because, look what he's doing, and look where the Boston Celtics are.
Oh, totally. And again, it kind of goes back to where the league's going. I mean, both these guys are. I think all these guys are great, but both these guys are, 6'7" rangy wings that can, make plays. So that's where the league's going. This is the guys that you need to gobble up early, and there's a reason there's a ton of athletic freaks that never pan out, that go super high in the draft. And that run, I think everyone kind of woke to Tatum during that run in the playoffs a couple years back when he was a rookie. Yeah, and that was such fun. I watched every game. That was so much fun to watch him. But it's funny when you go back to Fultz being the first pick of that draft too, and Celtics trading out to get Tatum, and they just knew where the league was going.
Yeah,
taking it by storm.
I think, this is another conversation, but the Celtics front office is definitely top 3 in the league, if not number 1. They're constantly making just high intellect moves. Speaking of Tatum, do you remember in that playoff run when he dunked it on LeBron and got really pumped and chest bumped him, and then realized oh dude, crap.
that was like the moment when you're like, these guys are just kids.
Dude. So, and I think LeBron had to probably take back and be like, all right.
He's like,
I got excited.
I get this. But for Tatum, he's probably a little bit better defensively, I would say.
Yeah, of course.
So brings that game, but honestly, it was what was crazy to me looking at this, and who knows where this really fully pans out full time, but Luka averages like 9.5 rebounds a game or
Yeah.
whatever this past season. Tatum's only at 7. I would almost think since Tatum plays more 4, he'd kind of be getting more boards than that. But that just another thing to point to why Luka's.
Can that speak to Luka's IQ and knowing where the ball's going to be? Do you think, or is that like he's so man, he's just so smart.
Yeah.
He's just so smart, and the game just comes to him. So, no, that's a valid point because you're right. I mean, I think Tatum's a little taller. I think they have him listed at like 6'8". Yeah, but like
taller. But he's
playing
the
plays
forward.
That small
Luka's
forward.
Yeah, because Luka's more of a point forward than Tatum.
Sure.
So yeah, you just think he'd be in a little bit different positioning.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point. All right, you want to hit us with your number 3?
My number 3, I felt weird about this one, but I just think you and I were talking about it the other day. I got to go Trae Young here for my number 3. He's just a walking bucket.
He's a walking bucket.
Like he is,
and so fun to watch.
He is just he's fun to watch. I mean, I was a Tech fan, a Texas Tech fan, and watching him at OU was pretty wild. It was frustrating to play them twice. That was just an incredible run they went on, and I mean, the dude's averaging 30 points a game this season. He's a walking bucket. He doesn't play a lick of defense, but he's got a special talent that you can't.
First time I saw Trae Young, he was a sophomore in high school, and it was at the MAC in Louisville, Texas. It was at one of those Pangos camps, but dude he was special then, but he was like 5'6". Like he was taller than that, but he was so little like he is now, but he was still just, and he was dropping dudes, getting buckets, and his court vision is just another guy. Not only can he get a bucket, but he has such great vision. And he has another guy that has just a real feel for being a playmaker.
Yeah, no, I agree. Do you ever think it's funny though, and I think these comparisons are coming up a little bit more, but when Russ was averaging like his triple double, everyone's like, oh, his assists, like his assists are only like one-off passes. He doesn't have offensive flow, and then I kind of almost feel like sometimes Trae Young was the same thing in college when I was watching him. It was like either he was getting the bucket or he just found the mismatch guy, but everything ran through him.
Yeah,
similar to how it did with Russ, but he didn't really seem to get that same knock in the NBA, even though I think it's probably pretty similar.
Yeah.
Why do you kind of think that is? Do you think it's just because he's young and people are still excited about it, or because he is a better pure scorer than Westbrook?
I think that's it. He's a shooter. He's exciting. He's fun to watch. He's kind of like the underdog. Well, because he's not out of this world athletic, right?
Like Russ is.
Yeah, and so people and I think part of it is Russ's attitude, right? Like he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's constantly just kind of bickering at people, like. So I think that plays a role. But yeah, I think when you compare the two, Russell Westbrook's like this freak of nature, maybe pound for pound the most athletic guy. I mean, obviously LeBron's up there too, and you got Trae Young, who's kind of like that Steph Curry, just that average human.
Yeah, like you kind of feel like you could beat him. You're like special, but he can outrun you.
Which, by the way, I mean, he's really fast too.
Yeah, he's fast, but it's more the stamina. It's like just the ability to just keep moving.
That's a good question though. I mean, so I would probably say it's just, for whatever reason, people like the underdog and they like the average. They like someone they can relate to, and Trae feels like you can relate to him, and Russell's like this 1 in a million athlete.
Yeah. Totally. So if we're building a team around Trae, what's like the most important piece that you think he needs? Like of the other 4 players, what's the other thing?
I think shooters, man. I think shooters to spread out the offense. It's kind of, I feel like that's a generic answer, but
hey, would Klay Thompson be the best fit?
Oh, dude, Klay, like you said in the last episode. I mean, Klay's the best. If you're looking for a shooter to spread out the offense, especially with a playmaker, I don't think there's a better guy than Klay in NBA history.
Okay? Yeah, he's just it's my theory of, if anytime you ask someone if you think Klay, if you think the number one important piece would be a guy like Klay Thompson, yeah, absolutely, because he is kind of. But see, I kind of wonder if there's a need there for kind of a super athletic, like Aaron Gordon kind of guy or something that he could
pick and roll.
Do some rim and pick and roll with, and I don't know. I feel like Atlanta definitely doesn't have that
Well,
but
John
it'd have to be a
Collins is
freak
pretty
athlete guy,
athletic.
like a young Blake Griffin kind of guy too. Like it
Yeah,
couldn't just be
yeah,
like
I see
a
what you're
stick
saying.
center.
Because I was gonna say like John Collins is pretty freaking athletic. But like, no, I see what you're saying. And look, I think you got to have both, right? You obviously have to have shooters, but I think you bring up a valid point. You need a guy that like Amari Stoudemire, Steve
Yeah,
Nash type guy. Yeah, absolutely.
someone who's
No,
just a freaking tactician in the pick and roll.
well, just because then you can mix up stuff
Yeah,
and have other options. So, but yeah, no, that's a good point. I think so. I actually went with John Morant, and it was kind of I almost felt foolish doing it because I actually really like Trae Young. I think he's a ton of fun to watch. I think he's going to be a repeat All-Star every season because of the reasons already stated. The reason I went with John Morant is I feel like sometimes I wonder if Trae, good guy on a bad team, like good stat stuff
yeah.
on a bad team. Um, I just because I feel like to operate with Trae. I mean, let's be honest. What the Warriors were able to do with Steph was an anomaly. But I also haven't seen, and maybe this is my lack of knowledge towards his game, but I don't know if he's a great catch and shoot guy. And I think you have to have more options than just having him have the ball in his hand 90% of the time to be successful. And I think you have to build the pieces perfect, especially on the defensive side, because Trae is a horrible defender. I mean, Luke is not a great defender by any means, but Trae is rough. And
Yeah.
so I went with Ja Morant. I'm knocking Trae, but my fear with going Ja too is also his frame. I feel like he's a little athletic for that light frame. They almost have the same frame, a very similar frame.
It seems a little D-Rosy.
Yeah, but even smaller, right?
Yeah, well, he's definitely smaller, but it seems like so much of his talent is predicated on his
he's 6'3", 175. I mean, I'm 175 and I'm 5'9", right? So like,
yeah,
it's so that's a little concerning to me. But again, the guy he just makes his guys better. He makes dudes around him better. I watched him this rookie year. Let's be honest, the Grizzlies don't have anything a whole lot different than they did last year.
Sure.
And all of a sudden they're a playoff team in the West, right? Yeah. And so I would still say they're better than the Hawks from top to bottom. So that's not a knock on Trae in that regard. But I had to give the nod to Ja Morant because he also does it on both sides of the floor. I am a little worried about his staying healthy and being durable, but I think with his feel offensively, with his grit defensively,
he's got a little bit of an X factor too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he saw it in college, yeah.
Definitely, and you and I kind of did a pre-run on this, and I also wanted a little bit of a difference with you, so that might have played a role. But no, I think he's an easier guy long term to build a championship team around than Trae Young.
Sure, I need more shooting. Ja. I think he's like 36% 3-point shooter.
Not horrible, but he'll keep you.
Yeah, not terrible.
I think Trae's only 36% from deep.
Is he? God, that just shows you what the. Yeah, they're pretty much the exact same. It just seems different, right? The volume's different.
Yeah, that's like we were talking about Chris Paul and James Harden. It's kind of apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Because Trae's a lot. I mean, you look at shot attempts, 3-point field goal attempts. They're going to be a lot higher than Ja Morant.
Yeah, but no, I mean, Ja's a badass. But he does have a little bit better setup. And yeah, you hope he stays healthy. Not that I don't think he's really shown too many issues in that front, but so much of his talent's predicated on his athleticism. So that remains the same. So yeah, he was my fourth here. And then I felt weird about, like, obviously these five guys are really tight. Like,
I did as well.
Like if I just look at number 5 here and say Zion Williamson's like the 5th person I've taken this, I feel like I did something wrong.
Right. No.
Like, I would say for me the difference between 5 and 2 is about an ABC kind of deal. It's like 2A, 2B. So yeah, I mean Zion for some reason this last year, and I wonder if part of it I was thinking about it is he's only played like 20 games, 19 games.
Sure.
So maybe that's a little bit part of it too, but those were pretty stellar 19 games.
No, I mean, he's the most efficient first 20 games in NBA history, like field goal wise, and no, dude's a beast. the main reason for me is health concerns.
Sure.
I have to see more before I'm going to be like, you know what, I'm going to build my team around him. Now, don't get me wrong. If I'm the Pelicans, I'm taking Zion, right? Like,
Yeah.
you just
Yeah, and I'm very happy with it.
yeah, like it's one of those things. I remember when I was a kid, and I'm like, I wonder if the Cavs will take Carmelo. And I remember my dad even was like, look, no, they won't. I was like, why? He goes, because if you draft LeBron and he's a bust, you still have a chance at having your job. If you draft Carmelo and LeBron takes off, you're done.
Yeah, you're toast.
Like you just go with the sure bet there. And Zion
Yeah.
was kind of that guy.
Yeah. Like, no, I definitely agree. Zion was the sure bet. And he's a lot of fun to watch. And he's got, I mean, his motor. That was what surprised me a little bit, was his motor. I mean, it's almost like a little Rodman-esque in some of those rebounds where you've seen in the first few games.
Yeah.
He's like hitting it like 7 times and like ripping and all those steals into the basket when other guys get rebounds.
Yeah.
Rips. I mean, I can't even imagine his strength on ripping something out of your hands.
Yeah.
You'd probably pull my hand off.
The one thing I will say is he doesn't get as many rebounds as I would have thought he would.
Yeah. I mean, he's like 6'6".
Yeah, no, it's true. But I mean, but Rodman was 6'7" in a big man's game, right? And now
Yeah.
I get it. They're not like Rodman's only job was basically covering arguably the best or second best offensive player and getting rebounds. And Zion's got a lot more of a load
on his plate,
or as that goes. But
yeah, I know what you mean though. But yeah, I mean, he's the sure thing. And
yeah.
so when you look at this, I don't know. I mean, Luka's the only one on here that I feel confident about saying is better than the rest. I think all these other four guys.
I'm pretty confident with Tatum, just because I think Tatum. Yeah, he already has a resume.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, we've definitely seen more of them. I think of all these guys, and I'm going to take Tatum and Luka out of the conversation just because we know they have great setups. But between Trae, John, Zion, who do you think has like the best setup, best team setup, best organization kind of like moving forward?
Probably the Zion, man.
Yeah, I'd say so.
They already got pieces around him. I mean, you got Drew Holiday, that's a veteran, an underrated point guard, in my opinion. I mean, the guy he's an excellent defender, great offensive player. He's kind of, I mean, he's more of a combo guy, but I just think they have pieces already around him. Yeah. And I'll be honest, I think if they had Zion from the get-go, they'd probably be, I don't know if Memphis gets in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think if the season played its way out, like the full season to the end here through coronavirus, like I'm pretty certain the Pelicans would end up making that 8 seed.
Yeah,
they were on his hair.
Yeah,
plus I'm a Lonzo guy. I think it's fun that he and Lonzo are playing together. But
and they play well together.
If you were on Zion, what's the first thing you think you need?
Pick and roll, a good pick and roll point guard.
Yeah,
and shooters.
Yeah,
and shooters.
It's funny. Everything sounds about the same.
Yeah, that's the NBA today.
No, yeah, I know. It's not. I'm not. It's not you. Yeah, I think.
But you know what? You're talking about. You feel like Trae Young needs. Can you imagine Trae Young and Zion together?
Yeah, that'd be freaking filthy.
That's the Amari Stoudemire, man.
That would be freaking filthy. You think we can get Chris Paul back to New Orleans?
Dude.
That'd be fun.
No, but it would be fun. It'd be fun. No, I'm kind of, you know what? That brings up another point. I don't want to get on a tangent, and we want to keep this episode kind of shorter, but it'll be interesting to see what Chris Paul does this offseason, because he's found a fit. Believe it or not, he's found a fit in OKC, and I know he wants to compete for a title, but
yeah, I think that team's not a title team. But title team, but that's a fun team, and he was good. And dude, the Clippers getting rid of Shea, I feel like that sucks. He definitely wasn't the centerpiece of that trade, like the centerpiece of the trade with all those picks.
No, yeah, that's.
And
I'm excited to see him in the next couple of years too. And truth be told, I haven't seen him a ton, so I'm excited to see what he does.
He's a little bad, but yeah, dude, CP3, he could. I mean, he's still got to be traded though. Is the problem, but
yeah, he will. I mean, he doesn't want.
These guys can force their way out.
No disrespect to the Oklahomans out there, but like, who really wants? He doesn't want to stay in Oklahoma City either.
Yeah.
You know, and so. Yeah, he'll go, but no, it's true. It feels like we're committing like the cardinal sin, putting Zion as 5. But I think you said it. I mean, I just don't think we've seen enough of him yet.
Yeah, I think that's it. And it's funny too. When he was coming to the league, I figured he'd be pretty good, but I didn't think he was maybe going to be as crazy.
No, I flat out said I thought he was going to be like I thought he'd be okay, but I thought he also had like the best chance of being a bust.
Yeah,
like I didn't think he'd be able to impose his will on NBA guys like he was college, and I think that was the majority. People were like, "Oh, he's going to have to be more skilled. He's not going to be able to bully him." Dude, he's bullying these dudes.
Bullying people. People don't want any piece of it.
No, I mean he's bullying these dudes.
Yeah, I mean he's just a freak athlete. People don't want anything. It's like a Vince Young when he went into the NFL at the Titans. Yeah. He started playing his first season. Like people, linebackers and safeties did not want to tackle him. There's like a 6'6" dude running straight at you. People didn't want to tackle him. People don't want to fuck with Zion.
No, they don't.
I was kind of thinking he was getting a little bit extra hype because he has a cool name. It's like Zion, like something like that.
But his name's actually said Zion.
It's what?
It's actually not Zion. It's pronounced Zion. But he said in high school they started calling him Zion, and he's like, it sounded cool, so I just let him do it.
There you go.
So
what do we have on the docket for next week?
Man, we're going to get into this point forwards, man, the evolution of them. Because, I mean, we mentioned one today, and kind of how it all started and who kind of probably deserves the credit for it becoming a thing. So
is Russell Westbrook a point forward now that he's on the Rockets?
Man, as small as they are, maybe. It's funny is I think he's still the smallest guy on the floor.
I think so, but he kind of plays some forward.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, man, we'll get into that. And also, we got a little segment for the UFC coming up. We haven't had live sports, so we're going to add on to this episode a little 15, 20-minute segment where we have a guy come in that actually knows the UFC better than Ford and I, and kind of talk about that. And, man, we haven't had live sports in forever. How do you think the UFC will do?
I think they're going to crush it. I think they're going to be just fine. And, this is our good friend Cody Payne coming on, and I think he's like a Weatherford Taekwondo legend. So it should be really great. It's good. It's good listen.
It'll be fun. So, well, cool. All right, man. Well, thanks again, guys, for listening, and we'll bring the evolution of the point forward here in the next few days. So, all right, have a good one. Stay safe out there. All right, guys, we got a good special segment for you. We brought in a guy that's very busy, as you can tell. He's in his car. He took the time to share with you some of his knowledge. We're going to get into this. We haven't had any live sports in a couple months, but the UFC is bringing it back. So UFC 249, we brought in Cowtown Cody is what we call him. So how you doing, Cody?
Man, doing good. I'm broadcasting live from the Kia Stinger studios.
I noticed those interiors.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's the wine red leather. But now I'm a big UFC fan, and Daniel and I talk about it all the time, and so I appreciate you letting me come on. And there's actually some good stuff, really, really good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to it, man. Let's jump right in.
So, do you ever remember me talking to you about a guy, or do you remember a guy named Uriah Hall?
Yes.
That's not familiar.
Yeah.
He had one of the most spectacular knockouts on that show that the UFC had that they don't do anymore, the Ultimate Fighter.
Right, yeah.
And dude, this guy he's a karate fighter, and he is phenomenal. His kicks are great. He throws jumping, spinning kicks. He throws all sorts of crazy techniques, which is good and bad. It looks good, but it's really easy for them to get knocked out at the same time. But he's fighting a guy, Ronaldo Jacare Souza, who is a very, very good fighter. And this is a 185-pound division. So this is the Cody Payne, Daniel Burton division is what I think they would call it. Okay. And that is a fight that's going to produce some really, really fun highlights. The only problem that I see there is Jacare is a really good ground fighter, and Uriah being such a great striker.
Sure.
Jacare may just take him to the ground and wrestle hump him for 15 minutes. But
I mean, from what you see, I mean, when you have a ground fighter versus a guy that's more, I guess, acrobatic, I would say.
Or a striker.
Okay, there we go. Who typically has that advantage? Is it the ground fighter?
Well, it depends. If the ground fighter can get him to the ground and keep him there.
Sure.
The ground fighter a lot of times.
Which is kind of what Khabib did, right? Or how he operates.
Yes, and so he did that to Conor McGregor. He was good at taking him down and keeping them down.
Okay.
But a lot of times you'll see these ground fighters, they'll spend all their energy trying to get them down.
Right.
And the fighters, some of them are really good at getting back to their feet. And then that wrestler fighter just spent all their energy doing that. And that's when you usually see it turn bad against the wrestling fighter. And so,
Sure.
but it's only a 15-minute fight. It's only 3 rounds, and 3 5-minute rounds. So I could see it being on the ground a lot. Uriah's not a bad ground fighter, but if it stays on the feet, it may be a fun fight. But another one, I don't know if you know. Do you know Fabricio? You ever heard Fabricio Verdum? He's been around for like 200 years. He was in Strikeforce before Strikeforce was bought by the UFC. He's fighting Alexia Olenek, who I actually watched out here in Austin fight one year. And that guy's also got to be like 95 years old. So both these guys are going to take their hover rounds to the octagon and get in there. Verdum, they're both heavyweights, so somebody's going to sleep no matter what. And not just because they're 90, they both hit real hard. And so that's another good fight to watch out for. And Verdum is his first fight back after the old PEDs to help him out a little bit. So, we'll see how he comes back. Sometimes they come back okay. Sometimes they come back as a shell of themselves. But I don't know. We'll see. But you remember Donald Cerrone that just fought Conor McGregor?
Yeah, absolutely. Cowboy?
Cowboy.
Yeah.
He's fighting Anthony Showtime Pettis.
Oh.
And those are both two really good strikers, fun strikers, who are going to stay on the feet. And, the reason Anthony Pettis, his middle name is Showtime, is he puts on a show. He's the guy that you see that highlight of a fighter that jumped off the cage and kicked somebody in the face?
Maybe.
It's a highlight that MMA shows all the time.
Sure, then I'm sure I have.
That's him. It's a very acrobatic, athletic move where he runs and he jumps off the cage and he kicks the guy, knocks the guy to the ground. And so it's Anthony Pettis, Donald Cerrone. It's Cerrone's first fight back after getting
Connor
destroyed by the McGregor train.
Destroyed too. Yeah.
Well, it just shows you the difference in fighters.
Yeah.
Cerrone's a good fighter, but there's a difference between a good fighter and a great fighter.
Cerrone's kicks are so powerful too.
They are. It's because he's trained in Muay Thai for a very, very long time.
Okay.
But here's the thing with Cerrone. Cerrone, historically, I've watched him. They say he has got the most fights in the UFC over anybody. So he's fought in the UFC more than anybody. It's like 40 fights or something like that.
Okay.
And that doesn't include what he did in Strikeforce and all those other events.
Wow.
But the problem with Cerrone, and he's had this historically, is he is a slow starter.
Okay.
And so that's why a lot of people jump on him. Anthony Pettis is a very fast starter. He comes out, guns blazing. He loves to unload in the first round. And so it could be disaster if Cerrone doesn't snap into it quickly.
Be a little more aggressive from the
get-go. And even Cerrone will stay. He's like, I got to get hit a few times before I know I'm in the fight. And so hopefully he gets in it because he's a good, fun fighter to watch. But that's a fight that you'll want to watch out for. I think that one opens up, or I think that ends the ESPN free.
Okay.
Before it switches over to pay-per-view. I believe that is. Yeah, I believe that is the final fight.
Okay, yeah, and then it gets into Greg Hardy and those guys.
Greg Hardy, yeah, that's the next one. Our Dallas Cowboy, our famous Dallas Cowboy, Greg Hardy. He's fighting Yorgan De Castro. I think they're throwing – the UFC likes Greg Hardy, right? He's a good knockout artist. He's had a lot of knockouts. He's powerful. He's a good-looking guy. He's a heavyweight. He hits hard. He's athletic. His gas tank has been a little questionable.
Has a criminal record. I mean, it just fits
just whatever that spells violence, they like, right? You need somebody that's violent.
Sure.
And I think that since he had a little trouble in his last fight, which he still won, he just he showed some weakness. I think they threw him somebody that is kind of an easy kill, hopefully.
Okay.
But
he hasn't lost in the UFC though, has he? De Castro?
No, I don't believe he's. De Castro. I believe De Castro has. Yeah. Greg Hardy, I don't think has.
Okay.
But we'll see. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's the heavyweights, and I mean, one punch and the power gets shut off.
They go to sleep.
Yeah. So
the breaker room has been broken into.
That's right. And so, but Greg Hardy, he hasn't been in the heavyweight division long enough to take too much damage. So I think he still has some good miles left on him. and he's with a good camp. So as long as he works on his cardio,
Sure.
he'll have no issue. He'll have no issues.
He just gets gassed early.
Man, he gets gassed, But a lot of heavyweights do. But he's been so the problem with Greg Hardy and a lot of up and coming heavyweights always have this that have a lot of power is they come out and they're starching these guys in like the first 2 minutes.
Sure.
And so they just get used to that. They're like, I'm just knocking guys out the first 2 minutes. What do I need to go run 6 miles a day for?
Yeah.
Well, then they start fighting higher end opponents,
Sure.
better opponents. And these guys are dragging them into deeper waters. And they're like, I can't swim out here, man. It's too deep. They're not used to going 10, 15 minutes. And so he's going to have to work on that if he wants to break into the top 10, at least, or the top 15. Another decent fight, Calvin Kattar versus Jeremy Stephens. That's a featherweight fight. That's decent. Jeremy Stephens, he's okay.
He's infamous for – is he the one that was infamous in that press conference where someone asked Conor who could actually challenge him, and he spoke out of line?
And he said he could, and Conor had to put him back in line. And
exactly.
Been in a press conference since. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you gotta know your lane, and he didn't, and so he hasn't been in a press conference since. But he's still a fun fighter.
Okay.
But he's not the hardest hitting 145er. So that's a decent fight, but a really good one. You know Francis Ngannou?
I don't. I mean, I know his name from the card, but
okay. So he just fought for the title a while back ago, and he is a heavyweight fighter. This guy looks like a Greek god. Like if you were like
sculpt someone.
If I could sculpt somebody, he would be 6'5", 260 pounds, shredded.
Like 6% body fat. Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like me walking out of a pool, basically. Like he is, dude. I'm telling you, this dude is a athlete of athletes. This guy, when he hits you, it doesn't just hit you; it hits your kids. It hits anybody that
you love.
Somebody's trying to call me. It rings through the family tree. Are you there?
Yep.
It rings through the family tree like you would not believe. So, he's a guy that's very hard. So, that's a fight that you want to watch. And also, if he wins that fight, there's a chance he may be fighting for the title again here pretty soon.
Okay, so that's big. And I see man, how do you say his name? Rosenstruck? Yeah. He hasn't lost, it looks like, in the UFC.
So it's going to be a good fight. I think Francis Ngannou is going to starch him in the first round. I have a feeling that he will. And so that'll probably be a quick – I believe the main card is going to fly by until it gets to the first championship. There's 2 championship fights on this card.
Sure.
Which is actually kind of interesting. But I believe it's going to fly through to the first championship because I believe Greg Hardy's going to knock the guy out. He's going to knock out Jorgen early. Pettis can maybe get it done quickly. Jeremy Stephens will probably get Calvin Kattar out of there. And Ngannou's going to come in there. He may not even break a sweat, so he may be okay. And he may be ready for his next fight. But then you get to the bantamweight title fight, Henry Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz.
Yeah.
You know any of those guys?
I mean, I know their names. I've never seen.
So Dominic Cruz was like the longest reigning bantamweight champion ever. And he lost his title about 2 years ago, I think. And he's taken a long hiatus, and then he's come back, and he's kind of been back. And the problem with Dominic Cruz is he's like a fine piece of china.
Okay.
He's very breakable.
Okay.
And so he has a lot of issues. He's got a lot of knee issues, and so we don't see him very often, but when we see him, he looks phenomenal. And so he's like that athlete that you see that is like a Porsche, just a fine-tuned machine.
When he's healthy, he's
phenomenal.
Elite. Yeah.
But he just can't stay healthy. And so he's fighting Henry Cejudo for the title to try to get his bantamweight title back. Henry Cejudo is a great hard-nosed wrestler who's actually a gold medalist in the Olympics.
Okay.
Dominic Cruz, if you like movement, this guy moves around like you would not believe, Dan. This guy has the best footwork. He's always moving. He's probably the hardest guy to hit in the UFC.
Is he one of your favorites to watch when he's
I like him because I like TJ Dillashaw a lot.
Okay.
And they both have similar styles. They are very good strikers, but very good at just moving. Their movement is good. But Dominic Cruz has the most unique movement you've ever seen in any fighter, period.
Okay.
He slips, he ducks, he dives, he moves, he does weird angles that you would think he'd get knocked out.
Yeah.
Nobody can catch him. Nobody can hit him. And so I'm going to pick Dominic Cruz in that one. But if he doesn't come in at 90% or higher, he's not going to win it.
Okay. Gotcha.
But we haven't seen him at 90% or
So
higher.
what's it, so Cejudo?
Cejudo, yeah.
Cejudo? Is he more of a ground guy?
No, he can do it all.
Okay.
He can do it all. He's actually been big into karate over the past few
interesting.
years. And so he's been making it rain out there in the ring, man. He is the 125-pound champion and the 135-pound champion.
Okay.
So he has 2 belts. But
Nice.
he has trouble making 125, so he may not fight there again.
Okay.
He's a little bit bigger, and that's 10 pounds is a big difference when you start talking about 125 and 135-pound people. So
Sure.
he's probably out. But I'm going to take Dominic Cruz on that one.
Okay.
And I'll let you take Henry Cejudo.
Okay.
Since it sounds like you won. But then the main fight. This is the money fight. Tony Ferguson versus my man, Justin Gaethje.
You're a big fan of Justin Gaethje?
Justin Gaethje. They call him the highlight for a reason. Now, they call Anthony Pettis Showtime, but they call Gaethje the highlight. Every time he fights, it's the 4th of July. This guy is what I used to want to be, but didn't have what he had. He can – you need to go back and watch a Justin Gaethje fight. He is the most aggressive, most throws caution to the wind. He's a brawler. He tells us to his opponents, and he tells us to everybody. He's like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to drag him out into deep waters, and I'm going to outswim him. That's what he says. And he makes everybody fight like a dog. Everybody says, oh, I'm not going to fight Justin Gaethje's game. I'm not going to go in there and brawl with him. They can't get away from him. He is the best at cutting off the octagon, at forcing them to fight and forcing them to make bad decisions. And he knows that he hits harder and that his cardio can outlast anybody's. And so he utilizes that against his opponents. His last 3 fights were all knockouts, first rounds. He's ruthless, man. He does not care.
You know, obviously I don't have a ton of UFC knowledge, and so to kind of prep for this, I kind of just looked into their backgrounds, and I see, you know, and what was interesting about him is I don't know if you even knew this, but he was a national champion wrestler in college.
Yeah.
But they said he prefers to actually not.
He could care less about wrestling.
Yeah, which is crazy. But what I was going to ask you is, you know, I think of like guys like Khabib, that like the ground game. These guys with wrestling backgrounds, it seems like they can last longer for whatever reason. Is that a fair assessment? Or
I believe so, because, you know, wrestling is so cardio intense.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Oh yeah, you're using your strength against theirs. And
I mean, I wrestle my 4-year-old and I'm exhausted. So
I tried to wrestle Melvin away from a chicken bone the other day, man, and I mean, you know, I won, but you know, I was out of energy. But no, yeah. I think he can give Khabib a lot of trouble because he's got that wrestling background.
Sure.
And so he knows if somebody wants to wrestle him, he'll out wrestle him. There's no problem in that.
Sure.
He's a national championship wrestler.
Yeah.
But he prefers the knockout. All of his fights are pretty much knockouts. I mean, he is a destroyer. One of my favorite fights with him.
You're thinking Tony Ferguson's going to win then?
Absolutely not. But, dude, I love Tony Ferguson. My brother loves Tony Ferguson. We like Tony Ferguson. He is creative.
Yeah.
He can outstrike you. He can outgrapple you. He's also somebody that's phenomenal that I think can also give Khabib a lot of trouble because he's got a great wrestling base.
Sure.
I just like will and desire.
Sure.
And Justin Gaethje has the will and desire.
Is he your guy right now?
He's my guy.
He's your guy.
He's my guy. He is, the thing about Justin Gaethje, and even Dana White in the UFC, they've said this, they have trouble finding him opponents. Nobody wants to fight him. Because, dude, he's just a brawler. He just goes in there, and he's like, I'm not blocking. I'm not being technical. I'm coming for your head. And, you know, if you want to try to take mine out while I'm taking yours off, that's fine, but I'm taking yours off first. Like, that's just how he is. Dude, he's just been destroying. But a fight that you need to look into with him is Justin Gaethje versus Michael Johnson. And Michael Johnson's a very good fighter. He's a great fighter, and everybody thought because of how technical Michael Johnson was and how good and accurate he is, they thought he was going to come in and clean out Gagey, but Gagey just showed he had more heart, more cardio, more willpower.
Desire.
And
he's Dennis Rodman of the UFC, huh?
Dude, one thing that you can never bet against is will.
Yeah. And
you don't hear that a lot in the UFC is willpower, but he's got all the power, man. He is a Kia Stinger on steroids. And so I'm going to take Justin Gagey, Dominic Cruz, Francis Ngannou, Jeremy Stevens, Greg Hardy, and Anthony Pettis.
Okay.
And if Fabricio if he can shoot up some roids before he goes out there, he'll win. But if they don't let him, if he can't get that nice cocktail, it may be an early night for him.
It's gonna be, the lights will be shut out, huh?
Yeah.
Which now going into it, I mean, it sounds like Justin is the main card is the one you're looking the most forward to, or is it? Is there another one?
Yeah, no, I love Justin Gagey. He's also taken this on short notice because Tony Ferguson was supposed to fight Khabib,
okay.
But Khabib's a runner. I don't like Khabib. He's not a champion that I love.
I'll tell you, he's not very fun to watch. It's kind of like watching
active.
Floyd Mayweather.
Well, he's not active either. He tries to fight once a year, if that.
Yeah.
And everybody else is like 3 and 4 times a year.
Yeah. And that was one thing, I mean, so for those listening, I mean, Cody kind of got me into the UFC as much as I am. And one of the things we'd always talk about, Conor, you know, he came with a lot of flack in the last couple of years. He's done some stupid stuff, but one of the things you always say, he just loves to fight. He's not afraid. He's not afraid to lose. If he does, he'll take it on the chin and just move forward. And there's a couple guys out there that aren't that way.
There's a lot of people out there that aren't that way. Ronda Rousey is a perfect example. She could not take the losses. She
left.
Yeah, and she's like, you know what? I'm just going to go make straight to DVD movies, and be
in the WWE.
That's right, and complain about it the whole time. But no, McGregor. That's why I always respect him. You may not like his antics, you may not like him as a person, but he comes to fight, and when he loses, he goes, "Man, I lost. The other guy was better tonight, but I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna win." And I respect that.
Sure.
And but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to Justin Gagey, man. I'm telling you. I mean, just the name itself. I mean, he's a loaded shotgun, and I mean, the guy's just a destroyer. Last time I watched him fight, I mean, he has got to be the most exciting fighter in the UFC right now by a mile.
Dude, I'm excited, man.
Illegal stream or something.
Well,
you can just call me and I'll share my screen.
There we go. We'll just do it through Zoom.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Put your phone to TV. Well, Cody, man, I really appreciate it. This is a treat. It's always a treat just to hang out with you, but let alone have you share your knowledge on this, and appreciate you taking the time, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having the UFC analysts coming from from the 2019 Kia Stinger in Weatherford, Texas. I'm glad our internet out here. I'm glad they upgraded it from horse.
Right by that good tree.
Yeah, I did. I had to, man. But now I appreciate it, man. I'll talk on it anytime. They've got a card every week for the next few weeks. But yeah,
they're gonna make a killing because of it. Well, good deal, man.
Yeah. Not tomorrow, but next week is the card.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So next weekend. Well, I appreciate it again, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Anytime.
All right, sir. Bye.